Picture yourself walking through the halls of an art museum. You are captivated by the realistic paintings of wars, portraits, the radical realism of Rodin, the beautiful ballerinas of Degas. Your mind wanders through the streets of Paris as you imagine artists sipping coffee in Paris's art district, the Montmartre, into the late hours of the night. This makes sense. The art is as you imagined it. Then you take a turn into the world of abstract expressionism, where you look at and admire the works of Rothko and Pollock. You are almost confused by the variety of styles you are observing. Then you take a left turn, and staring back at you is a banana taped to the wall. And you ask yourself, is this a joke? Who actually considers this art? Raise your hand if you think this is worthy of being installed in an art museum. Now, would you be surprised if I told you that this piece recently sold for over $6 million? Yes, this piece is titled The Comedian by artist Maurizio Cattelan. It even comes with a certificate of authentication and detailed instructions for its proper display, which include regularly changing the banana to prevent it from rotting. So clearly, what is art to others might not be to us, and vice versa. So how do we differentiate what is or isn't art? Or more importantly, what is art? Is its definition static, or will it continue to change over time? My first real introduction to contemporary art occurred when I was 9 years old. I visited the National Museum of Art on the campus of Duke University with my mom, her friend, and her friend's daughter. We were told to write about what we thought of each exhibit, and I was immediately drawn to an exhibit that consisted of multiple cubbies of several pieces of clothing and several black and white images of people on top of it. I wondered, why is this in an art museum? Because the clothes, they weren't quite right. They were dusty, dirty, but most of all, devoid of color, life, or beauty. I looked to my mom, to which she told me to read the description, and here's a picture my mom took of that day. That's me with the ponytail. I read the description, which explained that these were the clothes of Holocaust victims that had just arrived at a concentration camp. My heart sank as I was transported back to 1940s Germany, where the genocide of the Jewish population and other marginalized groups was allowed to occur while an entire society looked the other way. That's when I noticed unusually small pants. The pants of a child. So, I stopped asking if this was art, and more importantly, how can such egregious violence occur to even the most innocent of people, children? So, in this, I realized that even non-traditional art forms can have a powerful impact. With this memory still lingering in my mind, I decided I needed to deepen my understanding of the meaning of art. This past summer, I decided to read a series of essays by Leo Tolstoy titled, "What is Art?" Something that stood out to me is that people, like today, even over 100 years ago, gave up their lives, their labor, and their love for this thing that we call art. And what's more, Tolstoy defined art as the passion it instills on the vessel, the artists themselves. But this definition felt incomplete, as it failed to address the audience's participation in it. So, instead of finding answers, I was confronted with even more questions. Considering the sacrifices people make for their art, which seem to elude definition just as we finish embracing a new version of it, isn't it time we reconsider its meaning? Shouldn't its definition account for its fluidity, its ability to adapt across cultures and eras? So for me, redefining art meant acknowledging its universal capacity to challenge, inspire, and unite us in ways that transcend traditional boundaries. So I kept reading. Some of the most renowned artists of all time, Pablo Picasso and Michelina Wattier, argue that art is perceived by all 5 of the senses. For example, art may remind us of a siren in a busy New York street, the tranquil waves of the Pacific Ocean, the feel of the breeze in the Canadian prairies, or the syncopated rhythms of African dancers that grace the contours of a painting. Historically, art has been utilized in virtually every culture and time period for various reasons that can be both uplifting, like an invitation to explore Picasso's inner being, or oppressive, like the commissioned portraits of brutal monarchs in history. So, in finding this truth about the nature of art, I came to the conclusion that art is undoubtedly a universal language. Furthermore, I came to the conclusion that art is not defined by how it's created, but by how it's received. Armed with this newfound perspective, I decided to talk to a world-renowned local artivist and muralist, Mario Torero, and get his take on the definition of art. I had met him for an initial interview at Grounds Cafe, and then at the gorgeous site of his murals that grace Barrio Logan in downtown San Diego. After an extensive conversation with him, he came to the conclusion that an important aspect of art was that it must come from the people, because it is the communication between one soul's vessel to another. He then pointed at the tables and the chairs we were using and said, "Art is everywhere, and art is in all of us." This response was eye-opening. It made me realize that art cannot be bound by one definition. It can be in the furniture that we use, the music that we listen to, the food that we taste, the nature we interact with, or even the way we communicate with one another. We have the power to see art in everything. So, let's go back in time. The initial purpose of art after civilization expanded beyond pure survival was to imitate nature, celebrate beauty, and arouse desire. However, this purpose transformed in the Renaissance period, relishing in the minds of the audience and marking a new positivism that followed the medieval period, ultimately contributing to a greater good. According to Lindenwood University, the Renaissance sparked a newfound awareness of humanity, nature, and even our interactions with one another. And so clearly, art's definition is not constant, but changing, like a collective soul diary of history. And this begs the question, what is art's purpose today? Let's go back to my initial challenge to you regarding the banana taped to the wall. Was that art? Well, Mario Torero called it anti-art, ultimately undermining the purpose of art. While the original artist himself, Maurizio Cattelan, he criticized it. He called it a farce, elitist, a way to mock wealthy art dealers that did not buy art because they understood it, but rather as a way to flaunt their wealth. But what did the original purchaser, the person who initially bought it, what did he say? Well, he explained that people who were not normally interested in art wanted to go see the comedian. And interestingly enough, it has morphed into a meaningful debate on the value that we place on art and the meaning of art in general. And is he not right? I mean, millions are pondering the meaning of art because of this simple banana taped to the wall. Isn't that what we're doing right now? Despite the ridiculous and elitist nature of such pieces, they help us unify us in this conversation on the meaning of art. And so, I'll leave you with this. We are not all born artists, but we are all born with the universal capacity to perceive and receive the language of art. Art is only art if you let it be. So, let it be. Let yourself receive art, and let yourself be surprised by how much you connect with the past, the present, and the future. Thank you.